Nigeria's SuperFalcons are more than just a football team. They are a symbol of resilience, pride, and dominance in African women's football. For decades, the Falcons have been the queens of the continent, winning record African Women's Championship titles and inspiring generations of young girls across Nigeria and Africa. But by the late 2010s, something had changed. The team that once terrified opponents looked vulnerable. Coaching instability, tactical disorganization, and a difficult transition from one generation to another left the Falcons in a storm of uncertainty. Then came Randy Waldrum, an American coach few Nigerian fans knew much about. Many questioned his appointment in October 2020. Could he really handle the pressure of leading Africa's most successful women's side? Did he understand the culture, the passion, the expectations of Nigerian football? Fast forward 4 years later, and the answer is clear: yes. Randy Waldrum not only managed the Falcons, he refined them. He built a team that defended with steel, attacked with precision, and carried themselves with dignity on the world stage. Under his guidance, Nigeria reminded the world that the SuperFalcons were not just continental champions, but global contenders. This is the story of how Randy Waldrum refined the SuperFalcons tactically, mentally, and emotionally. Before we dive into his impact, let's take a closer look at the man himself. Randy Waldrum was born in Texas, USA, in 1956. A former player turned coach, he made his name in women's football as a builder of programs. He coached at the University of Notre Dame, one of America's top colleges, and led the women's team to consistent success. Later, he coached at the Houston Dash in the National Women's Soccer League, NWSL. Waldrum wasn't a household name in Nigeria. In fact, his appointment as Falcons coach raised eyebrows. Some wondered why the Nigerian Football Federation, NFF, didn't appoint a local coach. Others doubted if a foreign coach with little experience in African football could manage the team's unique challenges. But what Waldrum brought was structure, calmness, and professionalism. He wasn't coming to Nigeria to reinvent the wheel, he was coming to refine what was already there. To understand Waldrum's work, we need to go back to the situation he walked into. The Falcons were struggling. After winning the 2018 Africa Women's Cup of Nations, AWCON, they had a disastrous 2019 World Cup preparation. The team clashed with the federation over unpaid bonuses, and their performances lacked structure. Though they reached the round of 16 in France under coach Thomas Dennerby, they looked shaky. After Dennerby's exit, interim coach Christopher Danjuma took charge, but inconsistency remained. The Falcons even failed to qualify for the 2020 Olympics, a bitter disappointment for fans. The players were talented: Asisa Tashola, Desire Operanozi, Ono Meibi, Rashida Ajibade, but the team lacked a clear tactical identity. They could dominate African sides with raw pace and power, but against organized European or North American teams, they often collapsed. This was the broken puzzle Waldrum was asked to solve. 1. Tactical discipline. One of Waldrum's first big changes was tactical structure. The Falcons were no longer a team that played kick and chase. Instead, they became compact and hard to break down. He often deployed a 4-2-3-1 or 4-3-3 formation, with two disciplined midfielders shielding the defense. Against stronger teams, this allowed Nigeria to absorb pressure and strike on the counter. This tactical shift was clear at the 2023 World Cup, where Nigeria held Canada to a 0-0 draw, beat Australia 3-2, and pushed England to penalties. 2. Trusting young players. Waldrum wasn't afraid to refresh the squad. He handed opportunities to Deborah Abiodun, Gift Monday, and Esther Okoronkwo, players who added hunger and energy. He also built trust in Chiamaka Nnadozie, Nigeria's goalkeeper, who blossomed under his leadership into one of the world's best. By mixing youth with experienced heads like Ashola and Ono Meibi, Waldrum created balance. 3. Restoring confidence. When Waldrum came in, many players were frustrated by off-field issues. Payment disputes, poor facilities, and inconsistent support from the NFF had left morale low. Waldrum stepped in as a father figure. He shielded his players from external noise and gave them belief. Players later praised his listening ear and encouragement, something that allowed them to play with freedom despite off-field problems. 4. Preparing for the world stage. Waldrum knew that dominating Africa wasn't enough. Nigeria had to compete with the world's best. He arranged friendly matches against strong teams, helping the Falcons gain experience against 2023 World Cup in Australia and New Zealand was the ultimate test of Waldrum's refinement. Game 1, Nigeria vs Canada. The Falcons faced the Olympic champions in their opening game. Many expected a heavy loss. Instead, Nigeria played with discipline, defended brilliantly, and secured a 0-0 draw. Chiamaka Nnadozie saved a crucial penalty, earning global praise. Game 2, Nigeria vs Australia. Against the co-hosts, Nigeria stunned the world. Despite going a goal down, the Falcons roared back to win 3-2, with goals from Ashola and Kanu. It was one of the greatest victories in Nigerian football history. Game 3, Nigeria vs Ireland. A solid 0-0 draw saw Nigeria qualify for the knockout stage, finishing unbeaten in the group stage for the first time in history. Round of 16, Nigeria vs England. Against the eventual finalists, Nigeria outplayed England in many moments. They hit the woodwork twice, defended bravely, and took the game to penalties. Though they lost in the shootout, the Falcons left with their heads held high. This World Cup was proof that Waldrum's refinement worked. Nigeria was no longer just a dominant African team, they were a global force. Waldrum's tenure wasn't perfect. He clashed with the NFF over poor preparations and late payments, and he eventually stepped down in 2024. But his impact cannot be denied. He gave Nigeria tactical organization, a renewed sense of pride, a reputation as one of the most disciplined teams in the world. He refined the Falcons from a orbiting consistent team into a respected international side. Randy Waldrum came to Nigeria at a time when the SuperFalcons needed more than just a coach, they needed a leader, a tactician, and a believer. Through his calmness, discipline, and vision, he reshaped the team's identity. He didn't just coach the SuperFalcons, he refined them. He reminded the world that Nigeria is not just Africa's queen of football, but a nation that can compete with the world's best. His story is proof that sometimes the right coach doesn't just win games, they change a team's destiny. And for the SuperFalcons, Randy Waldrum will always be remembered as the man who refined their wings and helped them soar again.